safety guidelines while we're on this facility. Right, so while we expect more planned drills for today, right, should the fire alarm sound, we will take a left upon exiting this auditorium and we will proceed to the eastern car park. Right, so we'll be heading in this direction. You need two double doors. Should the last double door be locked, you'll see gray glass with key. You just punch the glass, take the key and open the door. Right? Once you assemble at the muster point, you will await further instructions by the security personnel when it is safe to re-enter the compound. Right? For restroom use, as you proceed back to the lobby, you'll see the sign on your left for the restrooms on your right. Okay, so do we have any further questions before we proceed? No? All right, so I pray you enjoy today's session. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session on the impacts of marine litter on Caribbean small island development states. We are truly happy to have you here. Before we get into our official proceedings, we'd like everyone to stand for the national anthem. from the remedy in the fires of food and bread. With boundless faith and destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Every creed and race and every province, acting God, bless our nations. Every creed and race and every province, and may God bless our nation. Thank you. So good morning again. We want to thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Sharon Worthington, and I'm a member of the International Coastal Steering Committee. I'm really happy to be here today with all of you. I hope that we have some really productive discussion coming out of today. Now, we want to say good morning and welcome to some key persons in our midst. First of all, we want to acknowledge the Executive Director of the Caribbean Network for Integrated Rural Development, CNIRD, Ms. Marissa Mohammed. Good morning. And we also want to acknowledge lots of people beside in the midst as well. And in addition, online we have Mr. Kola. We want to welcome and say thank you for joining us this morning as well. Without much further ado, I'm going to hand you the floor to bring us some greetings this morning. None other than our Executive Director, Ms. Marissa Mohammed.
Good morning. Dr. David Prasad, Environmental Manager from the Environmental Policy and Planning Division, Ministry of Planning and Development, our keynote speakers, specially invited guests, members of the National Planning Committee, colleagues, good morning. The CNRD, together with the National Planning Committee, is delighted to have you here to be part of our very first panel discussion entitled The Impact of Marine Litter on Caribbean Small Island Developing States. Since 2002, the International Coastal Cleanup has been a part of Trinidad and Tobago. This initiative has continued to gain momentum. We began with 4 sites, and now we have up to 25 sites from 2016. In this regard, the CRD, together with the National Planning Committee, embarked on its expansion of awareness and sensitization activities on the importance of keeping our waterways clean, not just for one day, but year-round. This panel discussion is geared to provide a bit more clarity on the effects of marine litter in the Caribbean. Marine litter has become a pertinent issue throughout the globe and has positioned itself as an issue which needs to be addressed urgently. We are honored to have the expertise of our panelists, Mr. Khalil Hassan Ali from the IMA, Ms. Sarah Kola from the Ocean Conservancy, Dr. Don Phillip from the University of West Indies, who is not here as yet, and Mr. Ted Callender from Kaiser Environmental Services. All our speakers today are esteemed specialists within the area of marine pollution in various forms. We do hope this discussion is filled with enlightenment and look forward to an interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mohammed. And I really want to commend the CNILP and Ministry of Planning and Development for this initiative. One of the first of its kind, in that we are speaking specifically today about marine litter and how it affects us in the Caribbean. We know that it's a topic that has been bandied about quite a lot, but we are here today to try to explore the problem, air some of the issues, and also come up with ideas to address those issues. So moving right along, we want to put our hands together and welcome Dr. Dave Prasad from the Environmental Policy and Planning Division out of the Ministry of Planning and Development. Can you please welcome him?
Ms. Marissa Mohammed, Executive Director, CNRD, and Country Coordinator for the ICC in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Kevin Thomas, the Chair of the National Planning Committee for ICC in Trinidad and Tobago. Other members of the National Planning Committee that are present here this morning, sponsors of ICC, panelists, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here today at the first annual panel discussion on the impacts of marine litter on Caribbean small island development, which is being hosted by CNRD in partnership with our ministry, the Ministry of Planning Development, and the ICC National Planning Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, as Marissa indicated, the ICC is one of the world's largest one-day volunteer effort to clean up the marine environment in an effort to restore its aesthetics, environmental integrity of the oceans and waterways through the voluntary efforts of individuals. Trinidad and Tobago, through the ministry, has been sponsoring this endeavor for the last approximately 10 years or more. And we have seen it grow, Marissa indicated, from 4 to over 20 something this year. So we would like to thank all that continued effort of these volunteers. Thousands of our nationals have congregated on beaches, rivers, and other waterways to remove trash and debris in an aim to restore the aesthetics and environmental integrity of our oceans and waterways. The oceans cover more than 2/3 of our planet and are home to approximately 90% of life on Earth. It creates our weather whilst moderating our climate. It is the ultimate source of water while also feeding millions of people. It absorbs much of the air and water pollution generated by the world's population, and our actions continue to contaminate our oceans. We must recognize that the oceans is inextricably linked to us. When we pollute our oceans, we pollute the very system that supports our lives. As small island developing states, Trinidad and Tobago is not unique to it being scarred by marine debris. Such anthropogenic waste falls into 2 main categories: land and seaward based, or waterward based. Land-based sources include landfills, dumps, through riverine transport, untreated sewage, storms and water discharge, industrial and manufacturing facilities, tourism and beachgoers. Waterway sources include fishing vessels, cruise liners, pleasure crafts, to oil and gas platforms. But just a small fraction of the debris polluting our ocean originates from the water themselves. Most of it is generated on land, entering the sea through the rivers and drains. Ladies and gentlemen, past results of our coastal cleanup activities have demonstrated some interesting trends relating to the indiscriminate dumping of waste by the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago. The data gathered has shown that plastic bottles and plastic waste such as cups, utensils, and plates have accounted for approximately 80% of the debris found at our popular beaches and waterways. A litter-strewn beaches and ISO, and with tourism playing a major role in the economy, marine debris can have substantial negative financial impacts and can threaten local businesses and employment prospects. With the increasing use of plastic, human influence or human impacts have become an issue as many types of plastics do not biodegrade. Waterborne plastic poses a serious threat to fish, seabirds, marine reptiles, and marine mammals. For decades, plastic debris have been known to injure seabirds and other marine animals by clogging up or otherwise damaging their digestive systems. In recent years, microplastics, which are plastics less than 5 millimeters in diameter, have emerged as a major issue. When exposed to ultraviolet rays in strong sunlight, plastic decays and breaks down into small pieces. When they become tiny particles, they are easily carried offshore and accumulated in the oceans. Moreover, they absorb toxic chemicals and are being ingested by marine animals that climb the food chain. Many plastic products also contain toxic additives to increase their durability. Microplastics also absorb pollutants from the oceans. The amount of waste collected on our beach over the years indicates that there is still a poor level of environmental literacy among the citizenry. A general portion of the population is still unaware of the environmental and health problems associated with the improper disposal of waste, and they engage in recreational activities along the nation's shorelines and riverbanks. This highlights the importance of the cleanup efforts of the participants who brought to surface the degrading state of our waterways and the need to take action at an individual level. It is my hope that such consciousness continues to grow until the day that every citizen will properly dispose of waste in an environmentally sound manner. I therefore look forward to the day that international coastal cleanup will not have to find it necessary to organize such events along our coastlines. And our coastlines will continue to be preserved in a pristine condition. Ladies and gentlemen, reducing the amount of waste entering the environment is one of our government's major environmental commitments. The government is presently pursuing initiatives for the environmentally sound management of waste in Trinidad and Tobago. Probably heard of the IKEA project that the Environmental Management Authority has been running, which is a national recycling solid waste collection project. This project aims to establish infrastructure, namely pilot depots and collection sites across Trinidad to connect communities to recycling facilities, encourage and build an attitude of conservation and recycling through an educational recycling program, and reduce the amount of waste indiscriminately disposed of in the environment or sent to the landfill. We as ordinary citizens must reduce our reliance on plastics by turning down plastic bags at retailers and reducing our consumption of one-use only plastic bottles. The 3R campaign, reduce, reuse, and recycle, must be stepped up. I would like to, however, stress the value of not only individual and governmental action, but of partnerships in saving the environment and confronting whatever issues face us as we endeavor to protect what is natural around us, while at the same time standing by to utilize our resources. Such partnerships will significantly contribute to Trinidad and Tobago achieving many of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 14, conserve and sustainably use of the ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Specifically under this SDG, we have targets of by 2025, preventing and significantly reducing marine pollution of all kinds, in particularly from land-based activities, including marine debris and nutrient pollution. And by 2020, to sustainably manage and protect marine and coastal ecosystems to avoid significant adverse impacts, including by streamlining their resilience and taking action for their restoration in order to achieve healthy and productive oceans. In conclusion, it is important that we instill in our minds that changing our behavior takes precedence to providing solutions to solid waste pollution problems. It is hoped that the discussions during the panelists provide recommendations that should be implemented to assist with how we manage our marine pollution in this country. We as citizens need to act responsibly, not just during cleanups, but all year round. The National Planning Committee for the International Coastal Cleanup, spearheaded by Mr. Kevin Thomas and Ms. Marissa Mohammed, and comprising of various organizational and non-organizational agencies, along with private organizations, have been a driving force dedicated to responsible action for the environment. I commend your efforts and the efforts of the committee to promote public awareness with the hope that behavioral changes are effective in the years to come with respect to waste disposal. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our activities for ICC 2016, we should remember that our activities this year will reward us with the satisfaction of knowing that we are making a difference to our future generations. I wish you all success in your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasad. And we want to acknowledge those of you who may just have joined in online. We are broadcasting live from Glass House, the House of Angostura, Glass Room, sorry. And we are talking about the impact of marine litter on Caribbean small island development states. We are just about to get into our panel discussion and to give you an idea of how things are going to go. We have online with us Ms. Sarah Cooney from the Ocean Conservancy. She's going to be speaking with us. We also have a number of members on the panel discussion. They were introduced to earlier. We have Mr. Ted Callagher, we have Mr. Khalil Hassanali. And they're going to all take turns just giving us a little bit of information from their respective areas. And we do value your time. We did get off to a bit of a late start. We want to say thank you for your patience, and we are going to try as much as possible to stick to our end time, as much as possible. All right, not promising. So we're going to get right into it. And we want to say hi to Ms. Sarah Collar. Can you hear us?
Mine is on.
Just trying to get online.
Sarah, are you muted by chance? Oh my God. No, this is on. This is on.
Just bear with us as we try to make this work.
Yes. No, this is on. It's let me see. I'm not sure where I'm maybe I can use that on mute.
We seem to have
Mutation 0.
So, right. And so maybe you can try. I don't think it's right. She's only but Sarah, can you try to speak again? I don't know. Maybe she can reconnect to the call. Sarah, if you can hear me and can just reconnect to the call.
All right, well, we get those technical issues sorted out. It's a shame, but we're going to continue nevertheless without hearing from his caller at this present time. But bring her back on. Instead, we're going to go straight to Mr. Hasnani from the Institute of Marine Affairs. And he's going to speak to us this morning on marine debris opportunities for research and intervention in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, can you bring him on? Warmly with a round of applause.
Hi, morning everyone. My name is Hassan, Research Officer at the Institute of Marine Affairs, and I'm here today to provide some insight into marine debris opportunities for research and intervention in Trinidad and Tobago. So, in recent times, marine debris has really become a trending topic globally. In June of this year, the 17th meeting of the United Nations open-ended informal consultative process on oceans and North Sea focused on marine debris, plastics, and microplastics, and brought together experts from across the world to discuss the issue, challenges, lessons learned, best practices, and the way forward to prevent, reduce, and control pollution from marine debris, plastics, and microplastics. The link I've provided there, if you go to that link, you'll see all the occurrences that happened at that conference. It's very useful information and provides a lot of insight. Marine debris has also come into focus through the Sustainable Development Goals, through which Trinidad and Tobago has committed to achieving. They gave their commitment to achieving last year. Most of what is known about marine debris in Trinidad and Tobago, the quantities and types, has come about due to the work and the collections done annually by volunteers with the International Coast Guard. Although not a strictly scientific data collection exercise, the effort every year varies and the methodology. It has been especially useful in providing some sense over time of the marine debris profile for Trinidad and Tobago. For example, last year, 2,137 people collected 23,235 pounds of debris, the majority of which were plastic bottles, followed by plastic bottle caps, and then glass beverage containers. For 2014, the collection exercise carried out by 530 people collected 4,695 pounds of debris. Again, the majority of which were plastic bottles, followed by plastic bottle caps, and then glass beverage bottles. In 2013, 380 people collected 3,427 pounds of litter. Again, the profile is the same. We at the Institute of Marine Affairs, we recognize that there's still scope for research and a lot of information gaps that can be filled as it relates to marine debris. This is especially as it relates to the impacts of debris on marine life, including what species are prone to ingesting debris, behavioral and life cycle impacts, and ecotoxicological effects, especially on marine species that are consumed by humans. Right? There's also scope for increased research in ghost fishing and the impact on catch losses as a result of discarded or lost fishing gear. Discarded or lost fishing gear is a category of marine debris, and these things, when they're lost at sea, they continue to catch fish many times. So there's an impact on fisheries in that respect. It should be stressed, however, that research into the impacts of the marine debris can be expensive and can be human resource intensive. We at the IMA have been inhibited in pursuing this type of research due to our resource constraints. It's true that ongoing monitoring programs to quantify the amounts of marine debris being deposited on the shorelines of Trinidad and Tobago and also document the debris profile, and change over time can be implemented. However, this sort of initiative is more adequately paired with intervention measures, so we can really explore how effective these measures are, and how successful these measures are over time. When considering policy and legislative interventions that can help minimize occurrences of marine debris, plastics, and microplastics in Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago currently has a weak framework in what is probably the most obvious method to tackle the problem: recycling and the strengthening of the circular waste economy. Sorting and recycling of waste in Trinidad and Tobago is not mandatory. It only occurs on an ad hoc basis in an extreme minority of households and environmentally conscious businesses, and those businesses that have a strong CSR culture. Several attempts by both the public and private sector, as well as non-governmental organizations, to institute sustainable, comprehensive, and nationwide recycling programs have been largely unsuccessful. Mostly because, I would say, because of the lack of political will. I'm sure most of you are aware of the Plastic program, which is probably the most recent attempt. It was initiated and funded mainly through green funding initiated in 2010, and it had to be shut down because of a lack of funding. We were waiting on a board to be appointed to the green fund, and that hasn't appeared up to this time. In any case, a national recycling program needs to eventually become self-sustaining. You can't depend on government grants to keep recycling programs running. So that's something that we have to work towards. Tackling the problem through legislative interventions has also had limited success. The beverage container bill, I don't know how many of you know about the beverage container bill, but this was a law designed to, among other things, provide for the establishment of the beverage containers advisory board, a deposit and refund system for prescribed sizes of beverage containers, and a regime for the collection of beverage containers to reduce their disposal into the environment. It was laid in Parliament in 2012, but unfortunately, it never was fully debated and approved, and it lapsed. Passing of the bill would have offered a good platform through which we could start to address the marine debris problem in Trinidad and Tobago, because as I highlighted earlier, the majority of debris on the beaches of Trinidad and Tobago are plastic bottles. And if we can't pass what is a relatively straightforward law, such as the beverage container bill, we can't really be expected to take both the steps. Both the steps like what Guyana has taken, where in January of this year, they have banned the importation and use of styrofoam in an attempt to tackle the marine debris problem. So, boosted and concerted education, awareness raising, and capacity building efforts need to be made to alleviate the marine debris problem in Trinidad and Tobago. Public education and awareness programs should be ramped up, alongside better enforcement of written laws, increased provision of trash receptacles at popular recreational sites, and regular collection of accumulated garbage. I'm sure we've all seen people go to the beaches and they carry the garbage. It's an improvement. They carry the garbage bags, they collect their garbage, but they don't take it away. And they expect someone, they leave it there expecting that, there's some system in place to collect the garbage. And what happens? A stray dog will come and bust the garbage and scatter everything, and all the efforts have been brought to naught. So public-private beach cleanup efforts and the reinvigoration and engagement of volunteer networks and communities in these efforts also needs to be encouraged. In this regard, the International Coastal Cleanup has proven to be a fantastic avenue for raising awareness and mobilizing various publics. We should strive to expand these relevant programs and make education and awareness and volunteering efforts more consistent for the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan Ali. And already some things are coming out. We're noticing some trends on the information that has come before us already. Dr. Prasad mentioned the prevalence of plastics in our oceans and the formation of microplastics and the devastating effects that they are having on marine life. And also Mr. Hassan Ali has brought to light the impact of fishing here as well. And that we know damages not only marine life, but marine ecosystems as well. I don't want to speak over what was shared. We want to save time and get right into our next presentation. We believe that Ms. Sarah Kohler is ready for us now. And just want to welcome her. And also, please remember to jot down your questions, take note of them. There will be a session afterward where we can ask questions to any of the panelists. I hope we get some answers for you. Yes? So, hello, Ms. Kohler?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Good. My apologies. I think I had messed up something on my end.
That's all right. We are looking forward to hear your talk, so please take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Can you see my slide here?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I can't see who's in the room, but I'm very excited to be here and to be sharing a bit of information from Ocean Conservancy. I want to first thank the National Planning Committee for the International Coastal Cleanup in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as CNIRD for hosting this important forum and for inviting Ocean Conservancy to play a part. If at any time you cannot hear me or would like me to repeat something, please feel free to interject and let me know, and I can always go back. So again, my name is Sarah Kohler. I am the Project and Outreach Specialist for the Trash Free Seas program, which is part of Ocean Conservancy. And I want to talk today about our International Coastal Cleanup, which you're all very aware of, and we've had just some wonderful introductions already. So I have a tough crowd to follow. But I want to speak on it from a global perspective, as well as what we are doing at Ocean Conservancy to take these data that we've gained over the 30 years of the cleanup and really moving it to the next level and seeing what we can do to act on this and prevent debris in the first place, because that's the real goal. So I just want to throw this slide up here to show what else we do at Ocean Conservancy. We're a marine conservation nonprofit organization that is based in Washington, D.C. That's where I'm streaming from. And
Sarah?
Yep.
Can you open up your slides on your end, the PowerPoint?
Mm-hmm.
Full screen.
To full screen.
I think I did.
Slideshow.
I see full screen. Do you see full screen?
No.
Okay.
You guys are okay? Can you see?
It's fine.
Do you still not see full screen?
No, but it's fine.
Okay, my apologies. Here, I can try to make this as big as possible. Oops. Is that bigger?
Yes.
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay.
Ah, yes.
Sorry about some of the technical difficulties.
It's fine.
So these are some of the programs and some of the other work that we focus on. We are based in Washington, D.C., but have some regional offices around the United States. And of course, the Clean Coasts box there is where our Trash Free Seas program falls. And Ocean Conservancy was established in 1972. And since the beginning, we've in some way or other had a trash program. It's marine debris and marine litter have been kind of at the forefront of the International Coastal Cleanup. is really the foundation and the cornerstone of that effort. I want to throw a few other items up here that are other trash-free seas initiatives. You see the International Coastal Cleanup there, but we also do some work that has branched off from our experience with the cleanup. We've used the data, and those data have inspired some other initiatives. For example, on the top right, we have a green boating program called GoodMate, which focuses on and encourages environmentally conscious boating practices, one of which being preventing marine debris. And then down in the bottom left, you'll probably see the little surfing water droplet. That is our education program for youth. And we're very excited to have this new initiative. I think it's a couple of years old. And we have this program available free for all educators, formal and informal, who wish to dive deeper into the issue of marine debris and share it with their students. We know that this is a problem that is extensive and will be around as the younger generations grow. And so it's vitally important to raise awareness for the younger generations. And so that is a program that we're very proud of. And you'll see down at the bottom on the right, we have some programs that have spun off based on the data of the International Coastal Cleanup. When we look at very problematic items, I know we've mentioned this morning plastic beverage bottles being of particular importance in Trinidad and Tobago. We look at the global numbers as well, and plastic straws is one that is particularly problematic and impactful to wildlife. So we have a new little project or outreach campaign called Skip the Straw that encourages people to consider not using a plastic straw or perhaps using a reusable option. But today I want to focus mainly on the International Coastal Cleanup, and I have to start with the people who run it, because the International Coastal Cleanup, the ICC, would not happen without the amazing leaders who around the world spend countless hours planning and implementing these events in their communities and in their countries. So this is just an example of some of our coordinators, and I have the special privilege of being able to communicate with this network on a daily basis. And one of our goals is to always expand this network and to better have a mixing of ideas and best practices and ways that we can, perform the cleanups in a more efficient manner, but also work towards solutions and share solution ideas. So this is something that we're really keen on expanding. The International Coastal Cleanup is special in that many of you know, we ask volunteers to collect data on what they're finding. So this graphic here just shows the astounding global impact that we've had over the last 30 years of the cleanup. That every single volunteer, no matter where they are, have helped contribute to these numbers. 190 million pounds of trash removed. It's just amazing to think of our impact. And this doesn't even show the amount of awareness raising that is also taking place. Every year we hold this event and push this problem issue into the light of the media and into the minds of people around the world.
Sarah, we just want to interject 1 second.
Sure.
If it's possible for you to turn on your slides as well. We're just seeing a picture of you. We're not seeing your slides. Okay?
Okay.
So you can reshare the screen.
All right. Can you see, are you seeing me or the slides?
We're seeing you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing your screen now.
Yes.
My screen now? Can you see me as well?
Full screen. We're only seeing your slides now. That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so the International Coastal Cleanup data, every year we try to display these data in a way that will be attention grabbing and also an educational tool. So one way that we do this is we publish an annual report. or an ocean trash index that I'm sure many of you have seen before, hopefully. We share this report with ICC partners, sponsors, anyone who is interested in learning more about the cleanup. And we like to display the numbers in a way that can make sense to people. The top 10 items collected is always a list that is interesting to look at from year to year and notice some of the little changes that happen. As we've been talking about this morning already, plastic beverage bottles, PET, is slowly rising to the top of this list of most common items collected worldwide. Cigarette butts continue to be the number 1 item collected, but the other items within that top list tend to shift around. And we also notice that almost all of these are either comprised of plastic in some way or are entirely plastic. So we're recognizing now that plastic pollution is really a serious issue that we need to address based on our ICC data. And the ICC in the Caribbean, nations have played an integral role in the ICC from the beginning. And so I wanted to share some photos that we receive from our partners year after year. It has been such an amazing experience to get to know our network in the Caribbean. It's a very strong network of partners, and to be able to receive not only pictures and results from the cleanup, but to share information and ideas and work with you has been fantastic. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay. I just want to make sure. And so we have partners ranging in the region from the Bahamas to Trinidad and Tobago, and from Dominican Republic to Barbados, Puerto Rico, and many others have joined throughout the years. And I don't want to bore you with too many data points, but I did want to show at least some numbers from the region from last year's ICC. And I know you have looked at the nation's data already, but in comparison to the region, in comparison to the world, it's quite interesting to take a look at what items are more common in the region. Of course, plastic beverage bottles has been noted, along with other plastic items like bottle caps and straws. And I do want to note that our data, the data from the ICC, in whatever format they come in, we house these data in an online database that is open and public access to all. We are very keen on making sure that the data are transparent and available. So if you are interested in looking in more specific locations, even down to specific beaches, we do have that granular data. Of course, it is citizen science data, so there are gaps from year to year, but we really do have a very robust global data set of marine debris. And as I'll explain a little bit later, these data have been referred to numerous times. And so, I forgot to mention that last year in this data set, just from these countries alone, 250,000 pounds of debris were collected with nearly 30,000 volunteers participating, which is incredible. So how the data are used. We don't want the data, as I mentioned, to just sit in a database. We're really working on taking the ICC and taking our work to the next level. And that also means taking the cleanup data and using these in solutions. And we have listed here just some examples of how the numbers have been used as evidence to drive policy change, both on a local and a national level, and internationally. And I'm sure there are many more instances where the data have been used and that we simply don't know about. And that's quite all right. We really want the data to be open access and usable by all. And then we also have on the right here, I just wanted to mention that the data also drive product innovation. And we have shared the data with industry leaders like Coca-Cola, who is one of our sponsors of the cleanup. And they're really ahead of the ball in that they recognize that their product is part of the problem, and they are, realizing that they need to be responsible for the end of life of this product. And so one way that Coca-Cola has done this is introducing their plant bottle back a few years ago in the hopes to reduce that amount of plastic that's out there in the environment that does not biodegrade. Data are also used in the scientific realm as well. Most recently, the ICC data were inspired and used by a threat rank analysis. So what we did is we looked at the top 20 or so items that are collected globally during the ICC and sought out expert advice and looked at research from the field of marine birds, marine turtles, marine mammals, surveyed experts, scientists, researchers in the field, marine biologists, and asked them to rank these items based on the threat that they pose to these particular species. And so what you see here is the findings from that study, that survey, and they just allow us to have a better grasp on what items are most impactful, what items maybe we should be prioritizing as we look at targeting item by item reduction, or maybe what sources are problematic. You see here that fishing gear is, from that study, was seen as the #1 most threatening item to marine birds, turtles, and mammals. And many of you are probably familiar with this. This is our paper volunteer data card. We share this volunteer card in a number of different languages around the world every year for the International Coastal Cleanup. And in this effort to take the cleanup to the next level and to better support our partners and the folks on the ground who are actually implementing the cleanup, we are really excited to have a more efficient tool in place. And so this year we are very excited to introduce a mobile data collection application for smartphones. This is called CleanSwell, and I hope many of you have heard about this already and hopefully played around with it on your phone or your tablet or other device. This has been a long time in the making, about 2 or 3 years now that we've been working on this, and we're excited to have this both for the volunteers' point of view and for organizers of the cleanup. We believe that this will allow for more efficient data collection and compilation. Volunteers can simply tap the items as they go, and when they submit their cleanup, these data will automatically feed into our database that again is open, public-facing database. And so this should save loads of time for coordinators, site captains, cleanup leaders for the ICC, and that they will no longer need to tally lots of paper data cards. And then, of course, this would also reduce our consumption of paper and hopefully save some trees along the way as well. So CleanSwell is being launched this next month for the 2016 ICC, and I know it's a transition year, so there may be some questions. And at the end of my slide deck here, I will have my email listed and a few more informational links. So feel free to send us your questions, your feedback, anything regarding this app or anything that I've mentioned prior to this. Lastly, I want to be conscious of our time, so I will talk briefly about a new endeavor that we are working towards. Again, moving beyond just the cleanup and really working towards, the future, hopefully not having to do cleanups at all in the first place. So this effort is really looking at the product's end of life, and more recently, both here at Ocean Conservancy and through our partners, we've heard the question of where does the trash go after we clean it up, and how can we have our trash go somewhere other than a landfill? What are our options for this trash and the end of life of these products? And one thing that we are looking into is a way that would allow some of these items to be diverted from landfills and to also reduce our use of virgin plastic. So this idea would entail cleanup volunteers separating out specific types of plastic resin. Primarily, to begin with, we would start with PET and HDPE plastics 1 and 2, which are what beverage bottles are made from. And these would be separated out from a cleanup and sent to a manufacturer who is interested in turning these plastics into new products and, again, reducing our use of virgin plastics. As marine pollution, as plastic pollution comes more and more into the spotlight and media brings it more into the spotlight, we have heard from a number of manufacturers who are interested in seeing if they can create their products through ocean plastic. There's a very strong demand out there for ocean plastics, and it's just a matter of figuring out the logistics of how to get these items collected off of coastlines and beaches to the manufacturers in the best way possible. So we're working out the logistics of that. And of course, we love the idea of this closed loop system, which would also provide a unique educational opportunity for cleanup volunteers and perhaps something a little more that they can do at their regular cleanup. The project is young, so we're still kind of currently working out the logistics, as I said, but we are looking at ICC data and seeking locations that are quote unquote hotspots of plastics like PET and HDPE. And we're also keen on looking for locations that perhaps they don't have the recycling scheme or infrastructure in place, and they really do need another route for where these plastics can end up. Of course, if recycling is already established, that is a fantastic system, and we are definitely supportive of recycling. So we're looking for just the key spots that do not have that in place, and we can reroute some of these plastics and divert them from ending up in landfills and hopefully never ending up in the marine environment again. So I think I'm close to my time. I just want to thank you all for your time and attention this morning. I'm already very excited after hearing from Dr. Prasad and Mr. Hassan Nali. So thank you again. Again, here's my email address. Please feel free to reach out to me if you are curious about anything that I've mentioned here. And then we also have our website link there. And then down at the bottom, if you're interested in looking at the database as it currently sits, that is the URL for the data. Again, next month as we launch CleanSwell, that database will be refreshed and will be a very cool new mapping system looking at the data. So I will hang around for the questions and discussion, and thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. That was truly a very insightful and informative presentation. I think we will agree. Some of those statistics and that data is quite shocking for us, and I like the context that has been created from her presentation. We have great ideas to move forward. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of questions based on what she has said. We have one more panelist to bring to the fore, and I'm also looking at time as well. So we're going to try to bring him on as quickly as possible, just so that we can get enough time to field your questions and to provide meaningful answers, all right? So Sarah, if you would hold on with us, we'd be grateful for that. I'm sure some questions will come your way. But right now we want to open the floor for Mr. Ted Callender from Kaizen Environmental Services Limited. There he is the division manager in Chancellor. Mr.
Good morning, everybody. That's a really difficult task to follow. So I guess that's impetus for me to be brief. So we've heard from different perspectives this morning, primarily from the NGO side of it, from the regulatory side of it. This morning we're going to hear from me how marine debris impacts from a private sector point of view. Now, just a little bit about our company. We're an environmental company, and we provide a whole range of environmental services and expertise. Right, we've been operating in Trinidad for the past 20 years. We provide waste disposal services, industrial waste disposal services, air pollution monitoring, noise, water, lab services, that kind of thing. and we basically are a one-stop shop for environmental services. So the service that we provide that really marine debris impacts upon is a spill response service. Next one. This basically shows all the areas where we have offices that we basically could respond to a spill. And if we this is just for information, so if we could just go on again. And we'll get to exactly how marine debris impacts upon the spill response process. Now, typically, what would happen is, because of all these bottles, Styrotex, the whole range of debris, it actually increases the risk associated with cleaning up an oil spill response. Risk associated with personnel, injury to personnel, and damage to the equipment. It also therefore complicates the spill response cleanup process. In any spill response cleanup, there's a range of different waste types that are generated. You have the liquid waste, typically the oil that you recover. Then you'll have oily waste, which is solid material that would have been impacted by the oil. And then there's the food waste and the other stuff that's not impacted by oil that could easily go to your municipal waste treatment facility. Now, that becomes important because when that waste that could be treated in your municipal waste disposal facility becomes impacted by oil, it now becomes hazardous waste and now has to be treated in a very different way. So that impacts upon the operation. Now, what has been our experience? I'll give you one of our worst case scenarios that we dealt with. You see on the screen there a map. It's of the SIDS area here. And we're not saying that this is what happened, but this is likely what happened. There's a marine salvage company in the corner here. And they would have, in salvaging a vessel, found a oil storage tank, emptied it out into the sea. That is bad enough as it is. This oil travels and accumulates in this corner of the beach. Now, this area, if you notice here, the plume, this river comes out here. Debris that comes down this river from Port of Spain accumulated along the length of this area. And what would have taken us a week to do took us close to a month. And because there was just tons and tons and tons of garbage that was impacted by the oil in back there. That was completely eye-opening to me. I didn't even know that there was so much garbage piling up in the back there. Didn't even know that there was some nice, I don't know if you see it here, this is the northern part of the Cabernet Swamp. There's also a little bit of a mangrove thing going on right in the back here as well. It's really nice if you take the garbage away, right? But garbage with oil, it was really, really a mess. And it took us a long time to get rid of that garbage. So if we go on to the next slide, just pass the mouse over that. Just pass the mouse over it. Okay, click it. Oh, okay. Well, this is in one of the technical difficulties. Okay. So I'm not sure I should be any different. No, what this spreadsheet basically shows is the volume of waste that was collected. Majority of it, if you notice in the different types of waste here, we have some oily waste. We have oily waste debris, right? And then if you look at it now, all the yellow highlights is what would have been garbage that could have gone to the municipal waste that is now impacted by oil and has to be disposed of. Almost 20,000 kilograms of waste. Now, that's a significant cost to treat garbage that could easily go to your landfill. And if you're the person that's spilling this waste, you're screaming, you're pulling your hair out, because you not only have lost your product by causing a spill, you now have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to treat with waste. So this is the reality of marine debris on our spill responses. And in almost every in almost every spill response exercise that we're engaged in, marine debris is something that we have to do. To the point where it is actually one of the steps in the process where if you're notified of a spill, once you have information on its trajectory, you gotta get there and you start cleaning the beach, right? Because it's almost inevitable that if you don't do that, you're gonna have way more waste to deal with. And so we try to help our clients by helping them to understand that. And as a matter of fact, that is part of the reason why we are really glad to be associated with this particular venture. If you just close that, I'm going to the next slide. So thanks. Good. So what are we doing to help? Well, in preparation for a spill, with respect to spill response, timing is very important. So the best way to minimize the impact from a spill is to not have one at all. The next best way is to prepare in advance for it. So what we started doing is we started mapping the west coast of Trinidad to identify areas where, if you have a spill, the areas that could be impacted. So we know ahead of time, once we get notified there's a spill, what area it is, what's the trajectory, we have an idea what to expect. All right? Now, it's interesting that in determining where oil would go or where oil would impact on the land, we look for what? Where the garbage collects. Because marine debris and oil are very similar. They're very similar. Most of it would float and would be driven by the tide, would be driven by the wind, would be driven by current. And they would ultimately accumulate in the very same areas. So we're here going along the coastline looking for where the garbage collects. So we know if there's an oil spill, this is one of the key areas where we could be doing some recovery. So next slide. So then it dawned on us as we started looking for association with the coastal cleanup group, we decided, look, this makes sense. If we know where this garbage is collecting and we're doing this to treat with oil, I mean, we're not going to be able to go and clean the beach ourselves. So why not partner with a group that is actually doing something about clearing the garbage? And we could now provide some assistance in terms of what information we gathered along the coastline so that we could help in terms of identifying areas where garbage would collect, where oil would collect, and ultimately how we could use that information to assist the group in terms of meeting its objectives. Right? Again, as we said, the best way to treat with your spill is to plan ahead for it. And so once we identify potential events, now there are a lot of oil installations on the east coast of the island, but strangely enough, the majority of the oil spills that we responded to at sea happen on the west coast. Right? So understanding where potential events could take place, we want to plan all those scenarios, and that's why we went looking for where oil will accumulate on the shorelines, right? Develop a response strategy for that. So if you know where oil would collect, what are the conditions there? Could you access the area? Could you bring heavy equipment? Are you going to have to use manual techniques to remove it? Once we have that information ahead of time, we can now provide resources to treat with that. So when we get that call for a spill, all right, so again, this speaks back to something that all of us would benefit from. If we are interested and if we take part in this cleanup process, I mean, we could really be adding value to Trinidad, adding value to the region in terms of, we have a lot of, everything that you see on the map here, on this diagram here, we have it here in Trinidad that we could benefit from. Right? And so we think that being part of this exercise really is something that Kaizen is really, really interested in, and we really hope that it goes on and that goes on successfully and that you could be a part of it and contribute. We have some pictures, but I'm going to cut it short because I think we're running out of time. All right, so thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Calendar. To me, that was extremely exciting from the point of view that we often hear about marine garbage and so on, but we don't hear about the impact that it creates when there's also oil in the water. So that excites me in that it's an avenue for us to put close attention to what, so that we can, it obviously influence how we react from here on out. So once again, thank you, Mr. Calendar. And we're very glad to have Kaizen and company on board in their environmental capacity. So if you are, again, tuning in online, we are happy to have you. And it's just a reminder that we are broadcasting live from the glass room at the House of Angostura. And we have a number of stakeholders here in the midst. We are just about to get into our question and answer segment. We know that we are a bit pressed for time, but we do want to at least achieve one of the objectives of this morning's session. We are getting ready for the International Coastal Cleanup next month, September 17th. And we know that a lot of you have questions that you need answers, have issues that you want to raise. And we don't just want to go and clean the beach and go back home. We want to make sure that we're having an impact, that we are bringing about significant change. And this is what this forum is for. And we have all of the panelists here with us. We also have Ms. Sarah Collard online as well, who can field some questions. So we just want to ask that you be very brief as you frame your question. We're going to try to get as many in as possible. Also, if you need to direct them to a specific person on the panel, just let us know as well. All right. So we're going to get right into it. Feel free to raise your hand. We're going to take questions from the floor. And we're going to try to be as well brief in our responses, yes, panelists, so that we can get as much covered as possible. Yes? All right. So do we have any questions? The floor is open. Please don't rush. Yes.
Just 2 points for clarification.
Just name and maybe
Neil and Dora from the BNA. Just 2 points of clarification. Michael from Kaizen, the satellite image, the part of the oil debris and the oil debris, that is actual color or was that highlighted?
I put that in for.
Okay. All right. And Sarah was online.
Sarah, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, I have a question for you.
Hi, the app, the Clean Swell app, does it also integrate GPS capabilities so that the items can be logged and used in a GIS environment?
Yes, that's a great question. As long as you have the location services turned on the device, the app will use your device's GPS to track your distance covered. And then the app also, the items on the app are pre-populated with a weight. And so at the end of a cleanup, it also estimates the weight of debris collected by the user as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Sarah, if you can tell us just a little bit more, we are very grateful for the data that you've presented to us. If you can just give us a little bit more of an idea of the impact that plastic straws in particular tends to have on marine life that you have found.
Sure, that's a wonderful question. So you may have seen a video that went viral earlier this year of a sea turtle that had inhaled a straw, and that's videos like those that really bring the problem to others' attention. But the straws in particular are problematic for lots of wildlife. They're lightweight, and so they float, and usually they're brightly colored, which means if they get broken down into pieces, they're also ingested by animals like seabirds. And then, of course, we saw with the sea turtle video how problematic that can be. But they're along the same lines as plastic bottle caps and cigarette lighters, in that they're bright colored, buoyant plastic that floats, and they're often ingested. And of course, we know that can clog digestive pathways and often lead to death of the animal.
Thank you, Sarah. We have another question for Mr. Prasad. Dr. Prasad, if you can give us a little bit more insight on the status legislatively of the things like the beverage bill, the shipping bill, etc. Can you just comment on the status of those things? Sorry to put you on the spot. But we do have a number of questions. Feel free to shed some light.
Well, the thing is, we think, I'm a technocrat, right? So certain things require a political directive. So we have, as I think I had pointed out, the bill was laid in the House of Representatives, passed by the House of Representatives last administration, last parliamentary bill. The debate didn't start in the Senate before Parliament was prorogued for the general elections. So updates have been provided to the current administration, to the Legislative Review Committee, to our minister, and I am waiting a directive on exactly how we're going to proceed with the legislation. Because I guess you're aware, the last administration had converted the system into an overarching piece of legislation, forming a new authority called the Waste Recycling Authority. And the beverage container bill was converted to the first bit of regulation under that overarching frame of legislation, which is whether this current administration is going to proceed in that manner of forming a new authority, which is the Waste Recycling Authority. So that's where we are with that. The other legislation is not under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Planning, so I don't have any updates on that. I think that marine shipping bill is with the Maritime Service Division of the Ministry of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. We also want to invite our online listeners. If you have questions, feel free. We're going to take those questions as well. Now we're going to go to Ms. Kuna.
Lester did that from the Institute of Marine Affairs. Just a comment is when you think of mobility, you just think of it being an ISO, but as Mr. Calendar from Kaizen pointed out, there will be other compounding factors. If there's a hot spill, and then I suppose there's a public health issue because of the public water and Zika. So just you may see it as a site not to behold, but there are other impacts that you may think about, which is quite interesting from that aspect. Mr. Calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Duna, for that comment. And yes?
Hi, Sarah from Waste Recycling. When I've been prosecuting from service structure review, and I've really seen when there's a lot of data that's compiled, but I don't really know what the data is being used for through that. I think it could really be used for a nationwide awareness campaign after the cleanup. So in other words, kind of just a statement.
Okay.
We should kind of use the information.
I'm going to invite Ms. Mohammed just to comment on that quickly. I know that our information does go to Ocean Conservancy, but she can definitely shed some more light for us.
Well, as you know, the data has been an integral part in terms of developing legislation in Trinidad and Tobago, and also say throughout the Caribbean as well. So we're trying to actually form a platform, at least under the similarities umbrella, to have that data be accessible. But of course, it is accessible to Ocean Conservancy as well. I know a lot of schools and tertiary education, they actually utilize the data as well for studies and various other research. So you can access that information. Correct, yeah, so we're trying to at least, like I said, we've been doing this since 2002. However, they may have some glitches in terms of the data being displayed, so we're trying to get that together.
We have a question again for Ms. Collar, sorry. From your perspective, what would you say, have any of those countries come forward during the years of doing international coastal cleanups? Have you seen significant change in any particular region, and what have they done?
Wow. That's a great question. So we are stronger in the international coastal cleanup when it comes to participation in some regions more than others. For example, in the Caribbean, we have very strong participation across the region. We struggle with nations in Europe, although I'm sure there are cleanups happening, they're just not kind of in the loop of the ICC, as well as African nations. We have some partners sporadically, but it's tough to tell on a regional level if change is happening in locations like that. Across the United States, I've seen on a smaller scale significant change. For instance, I'm from Michigan, and growing up on the lakes, on the Great Lakes, there are some beaches that, based on ICC data of the amount of cigarette butts that are littered, they were able to ban cigarette butts and cigarette smoking on that beach. And then subsequent years, the data have shown a significant decrease in the number of cigarette butts that are found. So we hear stories more on a municipal level, and we're currently taking a look at the 30-year data set of the ICC data at a global perspective and trying to see if we can piece out any trends from those historic data. So it's in the works.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. We have another question.
Good day. Yes. Coming off of your statement that in Michigan there was a ban on some of the lakes and smoking. Aside from that instance, has there been another success story that has come about that ICC is very proud of worldwide, or another success story that you can share with us? Please.
Sure. On more of a national level, at least in the United States, a while back, this was before my time at the organization, so I apologize if I'm not saying the story correctly, but there were high numbers of the beverage pack, the 6-pack rings that were found on U.S. beaches. The industry that creates a lot of those, called High Cone, took notice to high numbers and since then have created a more biodegradable plastic 6-pack container holder, or they've created a recyclable option. The older versions were not recyclable, and as we all know, those were a huge problem with the entanglement of the animals. So because of the ICC data, they came to us, they worked with us on a solution, and so now we've seen a reduced number of 6-pack rings in the US as well.
Thank you. Oh yes, I was told to say my name is Candice Amoroso from the Ministry of Planning and Development.
Thank you. So thank you again, Sarah. All right. Do we have any more burning questions, or if you just want to make a comment? Sure.
One question. My name is Levi. I'm here to studio. Well, this is more of a question I would say to, I guess, the Ministry of Planning or anybody who would like to answer. But it's along the lines of campaign. Are there any initiatives in place for campaigns, not necessarily focusing on the data, but more focusing on reuse and reuse awareness of how these plastic ones can be reused, as opposed to it being crowded to allow people that simply throwing them away at one use. Is the Ministry of Planning have any initiatives in that regard? So campaigns listed.
Well, the only one I mentioned was the green funding initiative that the EMA is implementing, which is the IKN program, where they put out these community bins and they'll collect recyclable materials. That's the only one I'm aware of that is currently operational.
But nothing that, let's say, talks about, what you can take plastic and use it to use, for example, in the home or otherwise.
No, we don't have that.
I just want to bring Swinfall in on this question.
Pleasant morning, David Manswell, Swinfall, Saturday from Kuala Way. But to answer the question specifically, yes, there are programs currently in place. I don't know if you all have saw in the press over this weekend. We have a program currently in the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, that sector of the environment, where the residents of Trinity City have to move over just under 1 million beverage containers from the environment. We ship those. We have a facility where we shred it as well. And we don't do this alone. We do this in collaboration with the EMA, my colleagues from the EMA here. What's nice about this program, we're doing it with all the stakeholders. So we have the garbage haulers who and I was quite interested to see the presentation by guys, and I was not aware of that impact from oil and gas. But we have the waste haulers, and they go every Tuesday and Thursday and actually collect from in front of home curbside. And we plan to roll out of 40 municipalities in Trinidad and Tobago. Once we get that up and running, it will add to what Sarah has been saying all along. That the day will come rather, where we don't have to clean the beach, or if we do clean the beaches, we won't have that quantity of waste.
I guess just to comment on it, I think that's a really good initiative. But what I would also add is that I think it would be great if there could be more awareness for reuse and recycling, especially for the malnourished in general public who may not know what they can use a plastic bottle or some of these other things that were traditionally, because a lot of the current initiatives still kind of forwarding stuff to the landfill. And we would want to try to reduce as much as possible, as much debris as possible as going through that.
And that's right. I didn't say this part. We have a public health program where we go into the schools, and we also take it where every man on the street will have an understanding and appreciation for what we do. Later on in the new fiscal, we plan to have a television program where you'll see Charlie coming back and so forth talking about hills. So Sarah may not know Charlie was one of the icons, his icons in Trinidad. We say chase Charlie away, meaning clean up your environment. Funding being available, I look at my and read for colleagues. That would roll. Yeah, so the man on the street, and they will also get a voice and opportunity where they can express and so forth.
Let me just add to that as well. PFP also has a very robust public education program. We tend to target mainly primary schools. And I mean, I as a parent, I have experienced my child having to take a class and make a pencil case or do something in some other way. It's small, but it's a start. Yeah. And that's the things that we do. And we also have our own master, which is one recycler. And we'll be seeing more of the
Thank you very much. We have some good participation coming forward.
Excuse,
yes.
We just have one sort of question and then from our online viewer.
Sure.
Sure. Verbatim, the question comes from Denise Janber. And it reads, "Hi, I was wondering if any of you saw the pictures circulating online of the styrofoam boxes from a popular food outlet, El Pecos, in the mangrove by Invaders Bay. Now, I know that El Pecos is not the only food box that is seen littered on the streets or that ends up in our waterways, but can some sort of legislation be put in place to ensure that companies are held accountable for proper waste disposal? Or shouldn't those businesses be encouraged to promote proper disposal or recycling from their consumers?"
Thank you, Denise, for that question and comment in one. I believe Mr. Prasad alluded to it a little earlier when he was talking about the beverage bill and so on, trying to get it implemented and the challenges associated with that. And we do hope, I know groups have also been lobbying against the use of styrofoam and styrotex. Again, key to that is for enough voices to lobby together to be heard to create change. And I think I'm very grateful that she made that comment because we are here gathered today to create that sort of momentum and to see it to the end where it is implemented. So thanks again, Denise. We want to encourage you to join forces with us. Networking is key to making this initiative possible. And we are all very sensitized to the effects that certain types of materials, plastics, styrofoam in particular, are having on our environment. Yes? Any more final comments before we wrap up? Any more questions? Okay, we want to say thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Eliu. Also, thank you, Dr. Prasad, and also to Ms. Mohammed. Before everyone runs off, we want to have a quick photo shoot at the end of it. But we want to hear our vote of thanks from Mr. Kevin Thomas, Chairperson of the ICC National Planning Committee, Trinidad and Tobago.
Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege this morning to deliver a brief vote of thanks to everyone, from our highly esteemed speakers, our sponsors, planning committee members, and special invited guests for making this event a success. Topics which have been addressed today on marine litter and debris have a direct impact on our economy, and therefore is of concern to all our citizens. At the outset, I would like to thank Ms. Sarah Collum from Oceans Conservancy, who agreed to join our panel and set a tone for the discussion. I wish to also thank Dr. David Prasad, Mr. Khalil Hassanali, and Mr. Ted Callender, who have taken their time to discuss these issues and possible solutions to marine debris. Thank you for your support and for such informative presentations. And last but not least, I would like to express a warm and heartfelt thank you to the members of the National Planning Committee of Trinidad and Tobago for participating in this event. Thank you all once again, and we look forward to an extremely productive and safe international coastal cleanup this year. Thank you.
Again, I was Kevin Thomas, ICC Chairperson. So what we want to take away from this morning's session, we started off hearing about the need for behavioral change. And I want to commend everyone who's here this morning because it means you are doing something right. And we really hope that persons like us can multiply so that we can really bring about meaningful change. And secondly, I want to encourage us all to network with each other and to expand the network. There are lots of other organizations who can strengthen this group, and it's up to us to reach out to them and to encourage them to come join forces with us so that we can see this come to some sort of resolution. We want to thank again everyone for attending, and we want to invite you once more for the photo shoot and some light refreshments. We also want to say thank you for all the online audience that we had today. We hope that you will be with us again in the future when we have more discussions such as these. All right. Thanks again, everybody, and do enjoy the rest.
I want to give a heartfelt thank you to my team from the Caribbean Future Forum on the UN team. Thank you so much for reaching out to us in terms of getting the message and the information that we shared today out to the wider world. So we would like to get a group photo. And then we have live refreshments.